like to call this meeting of the Board of Directors, the brand new 21-22 Board of Directors for Celebration Residential Owners Association. Call this meeting to order. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? So moved from Kevin Kirby. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Cindy Swisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Just a welcome and a brief introduction. First of all, it's great to see people in person. I know people who've been on the board have been interacting by Zoom. I haven't seen most of you live in 1 year. It's absolutely amazing. So it's great to see everyone. Welcome to our audience in the room and welcome to the staff in the room for general, and welcome to the audience on Zoom. Just for general information, we are well spaced. We are masked or unmasked, but we are spaced. The microphones we have here project to Zoom. They do not project in the room. So with hearing issues, occasionally people may be taking masks off or on. I don't know if I'm muffled on the sound, but it's moderate. Okay, so my sound is moderate. So I think it's best for the audience to hear the remote audience that we become unmasked, and then put your mask on as comfortable. So we are monitoring safety protocols, and the staff is probably 8 to 10 feet from the board. Brief introductions, because has everyone met everybody? And in terms of staffing, everyone knows everybody, or is there any need for any introductions?
Nope, I'm good.
Everyone's good. Everyone knows everybody. Great. And I think I met Neil Bresnahan face to face last December. It was like 6 months into his term or January that we finally met face to face. So we have an agenda. We have a robust agenda. Our overall timeline is between now and 10:30. We'll move as much through this as we can. 10:30, we go to executive session. Cameras go off. Management staff leaves, board only. And we're meeting with our attorney, Tom Slayton. We're talking about RFP, legal protocols, and so forth, and other legal issues. At 11:30, we resume to the public with our board certification session. So that is required of newly elected board members. Typically, all of us stay. We'll have lunch with that. And then when that ends, we'll pick up and resume to the extent that we want to go as long and far as we want to go for the day. If we finish everything by 10:30, that chance, but if we do, no, Brian says, ain't no way.
So David, for normally people online can type comments, will they be able to do that? And will Patrick be monitoring that?
Patrick, I guess, can monitor the comments because most of us don't have computers with us, but some of us do. But I think Patrick can monitor and decide how we want to handle that. But generally, we are just moving through and just doing board business. Okay, sound okay?
But even if somebody typed in, we can't hear or something
Yeah,
like that.
we cannot hear. So it's not a call in. It's not a call in opportunity for this particular meeting. And whatever we get through, we'll decide as our group, that's how we want to proceed. I think our first order of business is election of officers. So the first officer to elect is president, and then however that plays out, then that person carries the rest of the meeting forward.
And what is the process? What is the process?
So what process do we want?
Well, in years past, my experience, it was always a blind vote as far as the voting is concerned.
I think that's only the last couple of years.
Well, nope,
Maybe way back.
way back.
The question is, what do we want to do? You want to do a blind vote? You want to see who wants to be considered for president? How would you like to do this?
I would vote for a blind vote.
Okay,
Just-
blind vote.
I think it'd be appropriate to move somebody's name into nomination and a second so that we know if
Want
someone
to move a name into a nomination, or do you want to do self-nomination?
You could do self-nomination as well, but
I don't care how you do it.
Let's
Let's spend 2 or 3 minutes per person, go around, have each person talk about whether they'd be interested in president, vice president.
And any role they might be
secretary,
interested in.
So that
Very
we
good.
can have
that's
the
a good
lay of the
idea.
land.
That's a good idea. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Okay, let's do it. Who'd like to start?
I'll start. Okay. people online, Brian Kinsel. I am not interested in being the president. I am very much of the view, I stated this last year, that rotation of the presidency is a good thing. David did it 2 years ago. I did it. Vanessa did it this year. I thank David very much for stepping up for the remainder of Vanessa's term this year. But I like rotation because president's an easy position until you've held it for a year. So I also love the fact that there are different styles. My style was very different than David's and was different than Vanessa's, and different styles have seasons. So I'm not a candidate for president. I would be happy to be vice president if the group is so inclined. I do not want to be treasurer. Let me explain that. I was treasurer, president, assistant treasurer, and treasurer. This year we put the finance committee into place, which I think has done an outstanding job. I've set up the finance committee to where I want the chair of the finance committee to not be a board member, but to be a member of the community so that we have true financial independence. So the finance committee was supposed to be set up so that we have financial professionals in this town monitoring things. And it doesn't matter if we have a treasurer or other officers who are financial professionals or not, we get that input. So I'd like to see it evolve. And for the next 2 years, I'd like to see the treasurer not be Brian Cancel, but the evolution of this thing. Now, I will still go to the finance committee. I will still be involved because I just enjoy it. So it's fun for me. But that evolution, secretary, I would prefer the secretary be one of the newer people versus me, but if I need to be secretary, I will. Jackson, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm Jackson Mumming. I have no interest at any time, in any place, in any way to be a officer of the board. We have very qualified people here on this board, and I look forward to supporting each of you in the roles that you're selected to.
Good morning. I'm Cindy Swisher. And after careful consideration, and since I have worked for this management company, I'm very familiar with their management reports as far as finances go. I have 28 years in banking. So if the rest of the board would want me to jump in as treasurer, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. David Anderson, and Brian's already introduced that I was president 3 years ago or 2 years ago, prior to him, prior to Vanessa, following Jack, who followed Vanessa, who followed Eric. And then I stepped in an interim way, as we know, from vice president. I am interested in continuing to serve as president or as vice president. I've enjoyed being president in the past. These last couple of months have been very awkward, I must say, serving as president. It was unexpected, and just did what we had to do. It's a lot of work being president. I'm willing to do that. There's the public presence that we have, and there's also the back presence. I don't mean back room at all, because I don't believe in that. But I believe in a lot of the homework that has to be done, the organization, the prep, so that things go smoothly for the board, that things go smoothly with management, things go smoothly for the community. I know we all have different leadership styles, different definitions of that, different ways. My style is one of working towards consensus, but moving towards action as quickly as we can. So that's what I'm interested in.
Good morning. I'm Diana Vasello, and this is my second year on this board. I'm interested in becoming president for the year. I feel that we've got a very busy year ahead of us. I am a member of the RFP task force as a liaison, and I'm intimately aware of the process that we are in the middle of and will continue on for the rest of the year and ultimately sign a new contract by the end of this year. And I think that will be very helpful. The civic corridor and the ball fields, we need to get that moving forward. And that will also be one of the items that I focus this board on. I look around the room and I see a wonderful team who is willing and committed to this board. That you all know that this is not my full-time gig. I'm not retired. I have a full-time job, but with the support of the other members in this room, I feel like it's a doable project for this year. And I really feel that I'm committed to this position. I've got the organizational skills and the background on the board to be able to make it a successful year. So that's where I would stand.
Well, good morning, everybody. And I think I'll follow that with, I will not be placing my name in the hat for this. I would actually support Diana for that because of the rotation. And that's the only reason why. I appreciate everything Diana has done so far. So I know it's not about her, it's about me. But because of that, I'm actually going to sit back and say wherever it falls.
There's one person left.
Welcome aboard, Celia, go for it.
Celia McFadden. This is just amazing and very new to me, and I don't want to take on something that I don't understand any of the positions. I would just rather be a board member to help one of the officers.
To help one of the officers or all of the officers?
All the
Oh,
officers.
okay, okay.
Well,
Just want to
whoever-
clarify.
No,
just so-
whoever needs help. I mean, I support Cindy and the treasurer. But I don't understand all of the officers and what their positions are, and I don't think it would do any service to the board if I was one of the officers right
Okay.
now.
Very good. I think we need to do a ballot. I think we need,
The only person that there's a question on is you and Diana. Unless somebody wants to nominate somebody who said they really didn't want to be in a position.
oh,
So Brian said he'd do the vice president or secretary. And he said we do. Just follow it. Jackson's not interested. Celia is not interested. I said I'd be treasurer. So really, we just need to decide on the vice president and secretary and between David and Diana.
Let's decide, yeah, I gotta say, let's
We have to
start
do
with the
that first.
Yeah,
president.
I make a motion that we do.
Susanna?
Private ballot.
Figure out how, get some blank pieces of paper,
Yeah.
let's get the process.
She's
going.
already-
Everybody vote for
She's
one
already
person of the
ready.
two.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
So,
Okay.
so the first vote would be for
President.
president. Okay.
and then things fall out.
It's fun.
Forever and henceforth known as the Von Roberts secret ballot.
So do we want to ask Gary to do the ballot counting?
Sure. We'll randomly pick from the public audience.
You know, I didn't even see you over there. Morning. You're right in line with Brian.
He's hiding.
I don't blame you.
And thank you for recycling paper here.
Thank you. Thank you for volunteering, Gary.
Thank you, sir.
You'll be back?
We appreciate that coming from the town.
Yeah, just one position. Looks like we know how treasurer will come out. We'll see. We'll see. Someone might change their mind. Brian might have second thoughts. I don't think so.
There is a majority. And the selection is Diana.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First thing I'd like to say is thank you, David, for handling the presidency and stepping in. You did a great job. I really appreciate that. And first thing I'd say is I appreciate all your support. And it's going to be a busy year, so we got a lot going on. So if you can't hear me, let me know. I'm going to leave my mask on.
It's
So-
close.
Close, okay. I'll speak louder.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
but just, yeah, raise your hand if I go back to Okay, so the next would be our nominations for vice president. And we have one person who said he would, we have two people that would like to be vice president. So the nominations are for, we need to take another secret ballot. Susanna,
Susanna, yep. Next one.
Susanna,
Okay.
or Gary.
Perfect.
So we have two people who have expressed interest.
And just to clarify, it's David and Brian.
David and Brian have both expressed interest in vice president. Yeah, thank you for extra pages.
Thank you. Oops, I don't get to.
Oh, no.
Oh,
We still have to do the other two.
Thank you.
In case you make a mistake.
Okay.
This is for vice president.
Bank of America wants to know if early retirement's on my mind. Yes.
There was a majority, and Ron was elected as vice president.
Congratulations. And for secretary, I don't think we had anyone who specifically said that they were interested in secretary. Does anyone want to change their mind at this point and put their name in the hat, or do we just want to vote?
So you're suggesting we pick somebody who doesn't really want to do it?
Well, we have to fill all four of the positions, so we need to fill all of them at
I'm
this
just
point.
trying to encourage somebody.
I mean,
Thank you. Thank you.
Kevin, you've been the secretary
For
for
3 years now, so I mean, if
know how to
nobody's
do
up
it?
for it, I'm fine continuing. That's perfectly okay.
You'll know it inside and out.
Yeah, more than I want to.
He gets to sign a lot of documents.
But yes,
not really.
No? Okay, and I don't think anyone else. I make a motion that Kevin be appointed as secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you.
Congratulations. Make it so we don't have to do a secret ballot. Thank you, Kevin. You and I we share an alley, so.
We're good.
My secretary.
I make a motion that Sandy be nominated as treasurer.
Any comments?
I think she'd be great.
Yeah, I like that you have that experience, so. All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations. Wow, we went through that actually very quickly, so thank you very much for that. I appreciate we're moving forward with that. The next thing is to appoint the Celebration Joint Committee members. And the Celebration Joint Committee is between TCC. There's representatives from the TCC, Paige Pierce, and we have to have 2 members at least from CROA on that board as well. It meets quarterly, so it's not a huge commitment for time. David and I were last year on the CJC, and I said it's not a big responsibility, but it's good communication with TCC. Do we have anyone who
I don't do that. I know Paige from when I worked.
you know, Paige?
I don't know, it's still on the board with them.
And I'm happy to continue with it. I think I've done it for 2 years.
Have you done it? Okay.
It's been a while.
Okay.
I'm happy to do
I
that.
would like to go there, try.
You like that one as well?
There's only 2.
Yeah, there's only 2.
It's only 2.
Do we want to, any suggestions on how we decide, since we have 3 people interested in 2 spots?
Fill them out.
Fill it out.
There you
Piece
go.
of paper, vote for 2.
Vote for 2. So Celia, David, or Cindy?
Voting for 2?
2
Yep.
of the 3.
There's
Yeah.
there's 2 board
There's
seats, so
2
you have a board
positions
seat
open.
on CJC.
Um, Got some hand sanitizer on the table if you need it. While he's counting those ballots, on the list, we have the CCS listed as well, which is basically a nonprofit that is associated with the CROA board that supports major functions and activities that support the whole community, not just Celebration. And all of us are on that board. So,
Not on the list, is it?
I'm sorry,
You can't get, it's not on here, is it?
it's on the top.
No, it's on
Oh,
the,
So
I'm
congratulate,
sorry.
yes, everyone is on that list.
Yeah, everybody's on that.
Brian,
Yeah,
it's on.
okay, gotcha.
the main-
again-
Oh, that other sheet.
This sheet, everyone's on, that's the one I'm looking off of.
Well, this county, can I ask what appoint person is on this list? What does that mean?
Like a lead,
So if you have multiple people
if you
on
have two or
one,
three
group,
people who are liaisons to somewhere.
So in this case, there would be two members of CROA on the joint committee, and one of those two
No.
people would be.
I don't think we really necessarily need a point person. It would be more like, you know, a special events committee, if we have 3 or 4 people on there that want to be part of special events.
Okay, so
And
the participation by the board is not limited in any of these.
no, you are, everyone on the CJC is an
I
equal
was thinking it'd be
participant.
like one
Yeah,
for each, but okay.
no.
but on
at
the CJC, whoever the two people are, they're 2 board members for CJC.
And they both have equal votes. When there's votes taken, they vote, we get 2 votes at that board. And there's usually, I think, it's usually 5.
It's 5.
Paige, and then he has 2 people from TCC.
Yeah.
One is Ashley, and I can't.
They've changed a lot.
Yeah, and I can't,
So yeah, Ashley McGahee.
That's-
and, Henry Pratt has come back.
that's, Henry was the one who just came back.
Right, so Todd got a break, Henry came back on.
Really? Really? An actual resident?
I wasn't aware of it.
Wow.
Yeah, no, she,
It's a different mindset, which is almost like.
We'll have an announcement. I have 3 candidates, one gathered the most votes and then they followed.
okay,
So Cindy, most votes,
okay.
the other 5 from David and Sue.
So we need to
We'll have
do,
vote again.
so we'll have to vote again to break the
Okay.
tie. Papers, please. I didn't keep the extra papers.
Okay, this is a dumb question.
Mhm.
Did the time, yeah.
There's 7 of us. How could there be a problem?
Yeah, because there's 3 and then 2 and 2.
Oh. Didn't even have a cup of coffee.
It's okay. There's some on the counter. Okay,
So,
it's all right. So you're voting between Celia and David, just to clarify, make sure everyone's, so we don't. Thank you. Keeping you busy today.
Getting your exercise, yeah.
Mhm.
That gave it to us.
Yep,
Because remember, I didn't need a piece of paper. No, I didn't need one. Remember you said, oh, you don't.
Uh, I think everyone's kind of had a chance to look over the other committees, so hopefully, oh, someone's missing. I know you got mine.
Here, it's- Celia's
Celia's.
is right there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I think before we actually go through the rest of the committees, let's talk about what our expectation is for a committee liaison.
I agree with that's it. As a liaison, you're going to be supporting the committee, attending as many meetings as you possibly can. Doesn't mean every meeting. It doesn't mean that you are the leader of the committee. The committee functions on its own, but you are there to be the representative of the CROA board. If they have questions and if there's things that you need to bring back to us as a board that we need to put on our agenda for a workshop item or something that they're struggling with, that would be your role in working with the committee chairperson as well as the committee members. I think also in filling any openings on your committee, if there's openings available, that's a good, you would also be the lead in kind of helping to surface candidates. If there's not candidates interested in the committee. Is there anything that I've missed? For those of you who have been liaisons?
I mean, liaison's a good word.
Yeah.
It's the conduit to the board in both ways.
You are not a voting member
Right.
of the committee. You're just there to help and be helpful and observe. Some of the major 7 committees, art, covenants, finance, dog park, special events, recreation, technology. Those are, mandated committees from the charter and from the bylaws. The other ones are ones that we have added, and I don't think they're actually mandated, but they are ones that we have added and support as a board. And that is, to keep us involved in the community and communicating with all the residents and what activities that go on in the community.
So while you're sitting during the meeting, you can actively participate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yes, yeah.
but you can't make any decisions?
You're not a voting person, you're more of an advisor
Mhm.
and a communicator back to us.
And sometimes what happens, they say, well, what do you think the board thinks? It's like, I'm one voice. I'll give you my best shot, but
But you
just one
still
vo-
go
it's
back
just
to
one
the
voice.
board?
yeah, they're just, sometimes it's we don't want to go away a certain direction that the board may not support. But so it's a perspective that you offer.
In the past, we sometimes have had 2, 3, 4 people on a committee, and then I feel like we end up with no one going. I would rather on these committees, we have one person, that person, because my experience, and I ended up a lot of committees last year, is they actually use you as a board liaison communication. I'd rather we have one person, and then if the person can't make it, there needs to be somebody that they can find a backup. We've got 7 responsible people here, but let's, and I would rather people would just sign up for committee if they can make it, and we figure out how to make it work. And some of these we can challenge. We've had it for a couple of years. Is there really any reason to have a board member there, or do we need board? Do we really only need 8 or 9 committees, and other places we're just kind of, we got a good management team. Let's use management and not overuse board, and then use the board where it's important.
I do believe that this year you're going to have, we as a board are going to have a lot of responsibilities regarding the RFP and things that are going to go on with that, additional meetings that are going to go on with that. So I agree with your comment that having one assignment or having one board member on that to limit, I know this isn't going to be your full-time jobs.
Well, and we're going to, when we go into the executive session for an hour, we're going to spend the whole thing predominantly on the RFP, and you're going to find out a calendar for the whole year. I got a handout here and everything. I mean, and this, no one should pretend that the RFP isn't going to take a good chunk of time starting Monday.
It already has for the liaisons and for the task force, and it's going to be a lot of work between now and the end of the year. Okay, I'm sorry, Gary, you have an announcement.
Oh,
Can-
go ahead, ma'am.
Let's finish that up.
The second position for CJC is David.
David, congratulations,
Thank
David.
you.
That'll be nice continuity.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Speaking of continuity,
yes,
well, and I understand what Ryan said. But I think that there should be at least 2 board members that should try to make every meeting, rather than one board member that should make every meeting, and then whoever else shows up is only because then that one of those 2 people hopefully can always be there, so they'll know what's been discussed in the past.
And I would argue exactly against what you just said, which is what I have learned is whether it's technology, whether it's finance, whether it's CCD, they're looking for one person they can go to and try to get things done. Like on CCD, Greg, Jack, others were working with me. Technology, Jim Hayes will his college all the time, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You become the reality, and the problem is if you have 2 or 3 people, you end up with nobody who is the go-to person. So have a go-to person, and lots of times, I mean, on technology, as an example, I know nothing about technology. I can plug my computer into the wall. I
can't
literally,
do that.
well, and I played conduit. So whoever goes on these different committees, don't restrict yourself because you say, I don't know how to program in courts, some language, it's not what they
Showing
use you for. They use you as a liaison, communication and feedback mechanism.
I'm gonna, well, I appreciate where you're going with this, the reality and experience.
Yep, that's fine.
Speaking of technology, right? Prime example, so Brian last year was a bit hectic, right? And Brian jumped in and I appreciated how much he jumped in the technology area that was my responsibility. Jim Hayes was able to go ahead and communicate with me. He's the one that came on board to that leader. On the technology committee, however, a lot of questions did start shifting towards finance. And it started shifting towards what are the realities and restrictions of what they can do. And you may recall 2 years ago when we first founded that, we tried to say, hey, let's get them a $10,000 budget, and that was shut down. We should have lived with $10,000, even though they're now making money. And the first committee ever is actually making money before they spend money. So I'm proud of that part. But the logic of one person, I'm all about it. And I'm also about just play tag and say, hey, I can't make it, can you step in? It makes things, I think, a little more realistic.
So that, I think that's the point of having two, but one is lead. I think to your point, you'll learn in the RFP piece how much work that's going to be. And I think your point was, let's not overwhelm us. So I would not want to have two of us assigned to a committee. I want to have two listed, but one tries to be there. And if she or he can't, then the other person.
Yeah, and I would actually prefer to just have one listed because then it causes confusion. You as a board member are a resident of town and can go to every meeting if you want. But what I am really finding is that meeting overload can happen. And, I was at a lunch 2 days ago after golf and they volunteered to have 100 people come to our next meeting to talk for 3 minutes each about pickleball. So, I mean, we're going to have pickleball. Well, no, because people have, I told people to wait until the board election was done. And we're going to have the RP, we're going to have this other stuff. You're not going to hurt for things to keep you busy. And
I think that some of these committees, we want to attend we would like to attend every meeting, but these are established committees who are functioning at a pretty high level.
Yeah.
In most cases. So I would agree with having one point person. And then if you can't attend, if you need one of us to be a backup and you believe that they need to have a board member there or they have something going on, ask for help. Okay. So that could be a backup person. I think giving everyone two assignments on the major committees is going to be a lot.
But every committee meeting does not have to have a board presence.
Yes, exactly.
Does not have to have a board.
And
member
one
present.
nice thing about the new Zoom world and the fact that we're now Zooming committee meetings is you can zoom in, it
Or look
doesn't-
at it afterwards.
or yes.
But the person needs to be in communication with the committee
Yeah.
chairperson.
That's,
That's the key.
that's your
I'm
point.
sorry.
Yeah, well, two things. I want to clarify that statement. Are we really saying that we're not going to attend committee meetings?
Don't
Is that what I
have
heard
to.
you say?
I think to your point, if it's a well-functioning committee, I do not see a need to show up.
Oh, wow.
I
I disagree.
I believe that.
So let me just at least give my rationale. I think there's something to be said for the continuity that Cindy was talking about. But in my experience, continuity came from being at all of the meetings. And while we're not voting, we're not speaking. And so you create a relationship with these committees and you develop, I think, a better sense of what they're doing. I think it's hard to drop in and drop out of committees and to say, well, I'm just going to watch you after the fact and then I'll come back. Well, we as a board could all do that if we wanted to. That doesn't really solve what I think of as the primary need of a liaison, which is the communication. What I would like to see is that we're collaborative, that if there were a meeting and I couldn't make it, that I could contact one of the 6 other board members and say, are one of you interested and would be willing to pick up this meeting, and then go back to it. But I'm really reluctant to take a position initially that attendance at these meetings is optional. I don't think it should be that.
I think we should do our best to attend as many meetings as possible.
Yeah.
And agreed, you're not going to be able to attend hopefully, maybe you can attend every meeting. But the relationship between the board member and the committee chairperson is going to be, that's what's really going to drive the committee.
Mhm.
So do we want to vote whether we want to put 1 or 2 people? I would like to do, my suggestion would be put a point person And then we can have a main backup person, and then, but the point person is the main person for that committee,
So the point person hopefully would be able to attend every
the
meeting.
majority.
The second person maybe would be on them just to attend the meeting, watch it on Zoom that day, the next day, whatever, just to keep up to date with what's happening. So if that point person can't be there, then they can call,
Like a
you know, Jackson, say, Jackson, you know, you can, you know, I can't make it, can you?
Well, and one of the things, you know, we do during the board meeting, we ask for updates from the committees. And sometimes it can be the committee chairperson and sometimes it can be the liaison. So that's where we need the information coming back to us. So we're staying up on what's going on with the committees. Okay. I guess I'll make a motion to appoint a point person and a backup person. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I think that's a fine approach.
Do we want to go on? Let's take a vote on that because instead of. go
We don't
around.
need a private
Brian?
vote. Just take a public vote.
Public vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Nay.
Nay.
What, you don't have one person?
I,
One
I,
person and one other person back?
I want one person.
One person.
It's 5-2. It carried. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was 5-3. Yeah, it was
4-3,
4-3.
whatever.
Okay, so let's go through the boards. The one that has a big responsibility is ARC, the Architectural Review Committee.
By the way, 4-3 votes are okay.
Yeah,
For
no,
the
we're-
new board members, we
We're
take
fine.
votes, we move on, life goes on. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, this is not personal. This is, we're running, you know, we're all entitled to our opinions, so. Okay, so again, it's ARC, covenants, finance, dog park, special events, recreation, and technology. I know Vanessa has been on ARC for years, and we don't really have anyone, do we have anyone who's extremely excited about architectural review? Okay.
I was talking to two board members, or two committee members rather,
Mhm.
and yes, it's quite a handful. I also, we talked about this a little bit. Take a moment and really review what guidelines are in place and maybe go ahead and keep that timelessness, but also bring the reality of celebration to 2 decades, 3 decades later. So that's something that I talked to some of those committee members, and they're up for that challenge as well. That's going to be a large challenge for many before. But we'll see how it happens.
I second Kevin,
Gavin?
Well, good.
Yeah.
and I agree with your comment. It's a committee that really needs.
It needs some
To review.
evolution. Evolution, is that a good?
So
Yeah,
Kevin's
just-
the point
just
person.
Just a sidebar on ARC, I think part of the evolution is to dovetail with covenants and to look at what issues covenants is facing that may inform what ARC does as we look forward.
And we've seen that. in
Sorry,
field
sorry, I forgot to
meetings.
take this off.
We've seen that in the field meetings, and I wrote that comment up during the field meetings, and it's always been, well, yes, we need to have that conversation, but now's not the time. But there's never a time, so I think this is something that I'd like to.
So just a quick fast forward, what I just said may be part of the new, what's the word, when we do the thing for the each committee, their resolutions. That may be something that ties into each of those 2 resolutions.
Okay.
And I would also be happy to say that, and you can disagree with this totally, Kevin, but it's someone taking a committee like ARC and taking on that challenge could literally take on one committee because that'll be a real honest to God job. So I would like, as we go through, not to measure 3 versus 1 or 4
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
versus 2, but the size of the job. And
Yeah,
if you
they
take
are-
that on,
they
you've
are
done
not all
a
equal
yeoman's duty for the good of the
Yeah, they are not
celebration.
all equal in time or commitment and assignments, so I agree with that. Let's go through and do the point people first, and then we, you know, however that falls, that might help with the backup person. So,
Sorry.
that's all right. How about, how about, there's someone in covenants, anyone interested in the covenants role?
I will be at home.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I will be at home.
So that would be a good thing to have you.
Not gonna say that I want the primary.
yeah, I think maybe that would be
I need to hear that.
maybe that would be the backup and someone else be the primary, so we have 2 board members, because those again.
About you,
are extremely
Celia?
important.
Covenants?
No, thank you. No, I'm good, thank you.
Anyone for covenants? All right.
You okay with that?
Don't take that personally, Jessica.
Okay.
Okay, I guess that's gonna be mine
Oh,
then.
Is that something you want? Seriously?
I've been on covenants as a member several years ago, and Was it, David, were you gonna say something?
No, just a different way of thinking about this. Is there something that people might be interested in, like you're automatically on
Treasurer is the point
finance.
person for finance.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so that, I mean, that, there might be blanks we fill in and then
Yeah, and go back to it.
Go back
All
to it.
right,
Let's
do
go
that.
back to it. So
So Cindy is finance, dog park. And the room is silent, okay?
why in the heck do we need a board member on dog park? Seriously. I was gonna say, I don't think we need a board person
I
now.
think it was, okay, so let's skip that one and not do a board liaison. Special events,
I'd be interested in that. Oh,
okay, I'm sorry.
Interested in that.
You want to know, Jacqueline? Technology. So we've got, we still have covenants and technology to fill, so.
I'll
Brian-
take technology. I had it, and that way everybody's got 1 point.
Okay, so David, it's covenants,
mm,
but. you wanna take covenants?
mm.
Only put someone on covenants if they're going to be interested in it.
You think? Yeah. You can do technology and covenant,
No,
because you're, finance, I'm sorry, finance.
well, somebody does.
Finance is going to have a chair that is going to be a non-board member. We've already defined that. So you'll be, and I'm going to volunteer to be your second. So you'll have a lot of help. If you're willing to take covenants, I'll make sure finance does not leave you hanging.
Yeah. that won't be covered.
Okay,
If nobody else has done it.
okay. And I appreciate you all stepping up to do that, because that leaves me out of the 7 areas. And with the, again, participation.
Tuesday is missing from here.
That's would be, yeah, because well, we took dog park, so I guess technically, okay, so let's do the seconds. Kevin, you are the
I mean, I
point
can do
person
it.
on
I'll do dog
ARC.
park if we need dog park.
Okay,
I've done that before.
we'll put you as the second, that if they need someone, that you're there.
Who's the
Yep.
second on ARC?
So are
That's
we
what we're just
doing the
trying to
dog
decide.
park as a committee, or is the dog park? gonna
Dog
be-
park is still a committee, but it doesn't need a board liaison.
Yeah, I don't think it needs one.
Yeah.
So we're agreeing it doesn't. Okay.
And, okay, ARC, Kevin, you are the point person. Who would want to be your backup? I can take that, because I think we're gonna be involved in that, so I'll be the
Perfect.
backup. Okay, Kevin, you're gonna be, you want to be the backup for covenants? Okay, so then finance, Brian is the backup.
Yep, we have to
Special
be that.
events, David is the backup. You need a
Which one?
backup?
Special events, David's the backup, sorry?
David, recreation. Can I do the backup now? You want- Okay. And Brian, who, you are the point person on technology.
I'd love to be back up on that.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So just so everyone, okay, so art is Kevin and Diana. Covenants is Cindy and Kevin. Finance, Cindy and Brian. Dog park is David as a backup person if they need it. Special events, Celia and David. Recreation, Jackson and Celia. And technology is Brian, backed up by David. So those are the top 7. Okay. All right. All right. So the rest of them are there. So service areas, Island Village, we're not sure exactly, they're in the process of really getting started and really having model homes available. The RFP, I think we've decided that we'd like to leave the liaisons for the RFP committee the same as they were, just because we've all been there. So that would be Brian, David, and myself.
But all of these are suggestions that are subject to board agreement, yes or no.
Yes, so that's what we had already discussed that at the RFP meeting last night.
I apologize, who's on the currently RFP?
Diana, David, and Brian. I think we ended up doing that because we were the ones that we knew were probably gonna.
Could I ask that we table that until we've had the RFP discussion in executive session?
You feel
4
like
of
we
us,
need more
3 or 4 of
information?
us have absolutely no idea.
That's
Four- what
true.
the
Four of
scope
you
is.
have no idea.
Okay,
Yeah, because,
Right.
yeah, you haven't been
You-
involved because he
okay.
wasn't a
Okay.
liaison. so-
is that,
And this year it's gonna turn into,
So RFP liaison was actually liaison to the task force.
right,
not leading the RFP.
I'm not saying it
No,
wouldn't.
no,
be
no.
what
I
you
think tabling
described. I just like to know
is the
more.
right answer.
I agree.
We hit a litmus point last night. So if we wanted to do a new reset, we could do it at the end of March. We need to get through March and you'll hear me explain why later. And then we can have the conversation about how to proceed. I agree with that.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, do I have a timekeeper for your, I have no idea what time it is. And we have till 10:30, right?
Can I ask about service areas for a moment?
Yes.
The biggest service area right now is Artisan Park. They have a service area committee. And I know there are some other smaller service areas, some of which formed a couple of years ago. I don't know if in the last year, any other service areas formed committees.
5 total.
Okay, so we have 5 in total, including Artisan Park.
Mhm.
I don't know what the time commitment is around all of that. Artisan Park is very time consuming because that is a very active community. So I would like to put in as an Artisan Park resident to be the liaison to Artisan Park, but I'm not necessarily interested in it. And I think we need other people to look at these other service areas as well. So
Well, Artisan Park is not carved out of there. It is one position. I guess I would.
I'm asking why it isn't, I think.
You know, I don't know that we've ever just talked about it as carving it out as a separate service area.
My understanding is, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Artisan Park is the only official service area community. All the other ones, there's
No,
nothing,
no.
they don't each have the
That is,
individual charter.
no,
That's-
they actually, we formed service area committees. They're all
Well,
Yeah.
legitimate.
before you-
They all have charters,
committees,
don't they?
But they just kind of make recommendations.
Mhm.
So now you're saying that they're on the same,
They're not
Platform.
they're not exactly the same as Artisan Park in that Artisan Park has its own bylaws, charter and that type of stuff. But each one of the
Right.
committees is recognized by us and now has the power to actually make recommendations on their budgets, who does their grass and all that type of stuff.
So the 5 service area committees are Artisan Park. We can name them Spring Lake, right?
Spring Lake Gardens.
Spring Lake Garden.
Georgetown, was it? I forget.
Georgetown's a condo.
It's part of the
No,
slide.
condo, but I forget the other one.
Artisan
Spring Lake,
I want to say Parkview.
Parkview, that's correct.
North
The
Charleston.
area there, what is that? One, Suzanne?
That's not square. No.
That's a service area. Those are service, they have service areas.
I
But they
am
didn't
not
all have,
aware.
but they didn't all have committees, did
No,
they?
they don't all
No.
have committees.
Yeah.
It's part of the presentation on Wednesday. I don't have them memorized.
Why,
Hold
I
on,
guess my
Savannah.
question,
Hold on.
Just-
Townhomes,
Mhm.
South Village.
Artisan.
Spring Lake Gardens and Spring Lake Townhomes in Oak Pond. Okay, now I'm over.
So it's 5 plus Artisan Park.
South Village is not a service area.
The South Village Townhomes.
The townhomes.
Oh, the townhomes, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's not
Sorry.
live in South Village.
Yeah, no, we're not a service area.
I honestly don't know why we need a board liaison to the service areas. I think each one, if you take Artisan Park, yes, I understand it's a big area as an example, but it's got its own governing thing. They come to us with things, we should ask questions as a board. It's highly political at best. And I think inserting ourselves into Artisan Park politics is just suicide, and I'm not sure a value add. And the other service areas really should be dealing predominantly with management, in my opinion, because it's still roof replacements, paint jobs. If the budget is right, they should be dealing with Susanna or Tim or the right person. I mean, I really
Maybe
honestly
we don't need a liaison.
think they need.
Maybe we don't need anything.
Well,
Something bubbles up, they show up.
The-
I really disagree on Artisan. I mean, it's,
Absolutely part of it.
well, I am part of it, but it's a 600 unit residence. I mean, we're talking about Oak Pond with 5 people, or 5 residents or roughly. Artisan Park is, yes, it is political and yes, it's contentious, but there are a number of things. They use a separate management company. They have workshops and meetings. They're going through all sorts of things. I think that it would be foolish for us to pretend that none of that's happening and then wait for the groups of people to show up, a la pickleball, and come here to spend their time. Having a liaison who can communicate to the Artisan Park Committee and for the Artisan Park Committee to communicate back to the board is efficient and it's appropriate. And we've done it in the past. That's not something new. So,
I think we've done it, but has there really been?
oh no, I was the Artisan Park
You were
liaison
it.
for
You
2
were it,
years,
okay.
absolutely. And
Okay.
it was required by the charter at one point. We changed the charter
We changed the charter now.
and
it's
that
not.
removed the requirement, but it was
Neil.
still there.
Neil has his hand up first, then Kevin.
Not to make a decision, but just to throw it out there. Does your conversation change if the committees don't necessarily hear if they've had the coordination on? Because since I've been here, Artisan Park has been very independent. They kind of seem to like to do their thing and then they advise the board when they make decisions, but I'm sorry, Patrick.
Not that they don't deserve it, I'm just throwing it out there. Some of the committees really do like that autonomy that they have without either management or board intervention. And I think intervention is probably the wrong word.
Yeah, I
But-
think it's definitely the wrong word.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm just saying, I haven't got a whole lot from Artisan Park. The 2 or 3 things I have, we've been able to help them right away. But I'm not sure, just to what Brian is saying, I'm not sure they necessarily want over involvement from the CROA board.
well,
So I don't know if that
Just to
helps the
respond, and then I'll
conversation or
stop.
not.
It's not over involvement. It's
Okay.
it's participation, and I don't want it characterized as
Mhm.
interference or over involvement. So let's be careful about the language we're using.
Kevin.
I want to agree with the two favors on the ex officio member. Is that out of the charter now?
It is.
That's out.
Yes.
So no
Yeah,
one
it's out.
no one from CROA's management company attends those meetings, correct?
No, I get updates from Mr. McFadden when he either needs or wants, or he's communicating. But we don't, at least the management team, we don't have a standing invitation, nor do we intend or participate the Artisan Park Service Area Committee
Because
meetings.
they have their own.
Yeah. Mind you, I say all this with, we're here 100% to support and help. I just wasn't sure if that would help your conversation or not, because Artisan Park is incredibly unique in that they have a management company, they have their structure. So again, and Jackson, my apology, I didn't mean for it to be contentious. I just don't want to insert ourselves if it's not something that is equitable or that they're wanting. So I just wanted to share that.
Well, what, Jackson, let me ask you, what exactly, and I'm not saying that I agree with you, but I think I agree. So what would your role be? Would you just kind of be like the bug on the wall at the meetings?
Well, I think it's more than that. It's being there to hear what's going on, to answer questions. There's a fair amount of activity and money that was spent. There's this last year, the whole question about whether to keep the clubhouse open or close it under COVID was something that required a fair amount of coordination. And the committee spent a good deal of time with Vanessa as president, walking through those things because there wasn't a specific liaison. So I think it's important to have that communication role. It's a non-voting role, but it's a back and forth communications role that I think is important to do.
With all due respect, whether you have this role officially control or not, or
Yes, of course.
will you receive that communication?
Well, I'll receive it. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the point is there the authority to, if I'm there as a resident, that's different than if I'm there. And I think it's worth pointing out that this would be the precedent for what happens with Island Village. I mean, I think Island Village will end up being structured much the same as Artisan Park in terms of having its own service area charter and activity. And what we do here with Artisan Park probably creates some precedent for what we do in Island Village. And do we want to not have a role there or not? The inevitable reality is that, with a 3-year term, I'm going to be here and I'm going to be in Artisan Park for both of those. Now, we can make that official or we can make it unofficial, but my guess is if we make it unofficial, 6 months from now, somebody on this board is going to say, well, what's going on in Artisan Park? What are they trying to do down there? And then I'm put in the awkward position of speaking without speaking, right? With no portfolio, but here I am as an Artisan Park resident. And I'm just not sure that that's a great idea, but
So as obviously there's different opinions sitting around the table. I think we need to probably take a vote on this to decide whether we maintain the service area liaison or whether we don't have that we take it off the list or we leave it on the list.
Well, then I would make the motion to keep the service areas on the list, specifically including Artisan Park.
Does someone want to second that motion for discussion? No? I'm sorry, that motion dies. I don't think we have a second.
Well, we can't vote without a second.
Right, so yeah, there is, yeah. That motion has now died, so we now move
Now
on.
it's died. Because everything is so contentious. And I apologize to the Artisan Park people, but you know, there's a lot of things going on. Do you think maybe that we should communicate with the board, the city board, to see what their feelings are about having a CROA representative there?
I think that could be a good point. You know, we ask the board members what they, if they feel like they need a
And say, you
liaison.
know, this is what we think that person's
You got it.
role will be.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I don't know what the answer would be currently with the new board, but I'm gonna guess that before you said you've been there before, the answer was no.
I think we had a hard time.
Mhm.
They progressed.
Yeah, it's a different board. It's a different board now.
That board's gonna freak out. Let's just be honest.
on-
I don't,
I'm sure that we have some, you know. some
and so, I mean,
Well, but if we present it, I mean, if that CROA, and the purpose of that whole board member being there is to be an advocate for them, because from time to time, they do need to come to the board, especially if they're looking to spend reserve funds.
so then why not set up 2 or 3 meetings a year between this board and that board? It can be a 1-hour meeting and there's a real communication and you get the issues on table. It avoids the contentiousness of one person, whoever that person may be. And then you have communication. And if we're going to have an island village model, I'd want the island village model to be exactly the same, because I really, when we get to island village, I'm not a fan of having island village point people anymore. It's starting to evolve. There needs to be a real discipline thing. So if we're going to have an Artisan Park discipline, I would make a motion, then let's have 2 or 3 board meetings a year where both board members meet together. There's a true agenda. You can talk about anything from what the business they're doing to are there secret board meetings happening and all kinds of stuff. But then you got an honest conversation in public.
Mhm.
That would be my motion.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I second that. I second that motion.
Okay, I'm gonna take David's second on that. Okay,
Yep. And we can request it because we're the governing board.
yeah, and hopefully they would be open to that.
And I would actually like to make that, I said 2 or 3 meetings. So once every 4 months, we have a meeting with them.
Would that be like the joint meeting that we're starting to have with CCDD and
I would-
CROA?
This would be a
Something
real
like
board
that?
meeting where we have an agreed agenda between the 2 of us. I think they have 5 members, if I remember right. We have 7. So we'd have 12 people there. It would be Zoom. The public could watch it. We talk about real topics. I respect what Jackson is saying as to there are issues that need to be discussed, but then let's get away from any personality issue and we build a discipline that goes forward. And I would like to do the same thing with Island Village.
Can I, a point of clarification? So that's for Artisan Park and we're talking about service areas. The other service areas right now don't have a lot of interaction with the board.
I think the other service areas should be management's responsibility to come to us with
Exactly.
issues.
You want to
It's-
edit, you want to
it
edit your motion
takes
to
up
say
all the
that?
So my motion, I will rescind my prior motion and somebody rescind their second. My new motion will be that we, for the service areas other than Artisan Park, it is management's responsibility to coordinate everything and keep the board apprised. For Artisan Park, we want to have 3 joint board meetings a year with their 5-person board and our 7-person board to discuss business issues of interest to both of us.
I second that.
Getting challenged with that.
No,
Frankly, I think they're.
I mean, again, I can only speak for 7 or 8 months, but when I got here, you know, the perception was that Mr. McFadden, Evergreen, they were serving Artisan Park well. Artisan Park was receptive, and we were here as a support to Artisan Park and to Evergreen. But the rest of the service areas, we have staff liaisons for all of them, and then Susanna and I step in where necessary to support our service area manager. So I'm totally fine with that, and I think that's wise.
But with
Now, I'm sorry, but I do think the service area committees, they have no issues asking for more when they need it. And that's kind of, and Jackson, I'm sorry, I probably approached that the wrong way. I don't want all of you over committing to something where it's not needed yet, but they have no issues letting us know when they need us. And I also am concerned about burnout because this is a lot and I need you guys to run a marathon, not a sprint. So,
Okay,
Can
We
I
have
ask a question?
sure.
Diana?
Yes.
Just moving forward, since my son Bill is and I should have thought that when I second the motion, since.
That's
he's
why I
the-
took his second.
Right, well, see,
Yeah.
that's all coming to
That's
my
fine.
mind now. So since he's the general manager down there, and anything is involved with Artisan Park, I will just.
You're gonna have to, when we go through the legal session
Right,
later, you're
right.
gonna,
Yeah,
you're gonna get
we
the
have-
rules for
That's when-
recusal,
when
so.
I seconded, I realized maybe I should have known.
I think, so you're going to recuse yourself from this vote
Yes.
because it involves something
Right.
that you have
Mhm.
family
Yeah.
ties to. I agree with that. And I think we will discuss that during the legal session later with Tom Slayton, which I'm sure that would be his
Right.
advice. But for this vote, okay.
Full learning
So,
process.
all in favor of the motion that Brian made and David seconded, to have the service areas, other than Artisan Park, be handled by management, and then Artisan Park will set up 3 meetings a year with the Artisan Park Board for communication and discussing any issues. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I voted aye.
You did. Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay,
So you
Motion
make it
passed.
unanimous vote.
yes, unanimous vote. Okay, I agree with that. Thank you very much. I think that's a good resolution to move forward in a new way in dealing with that, and hopefully as a model for Island Village as well. So that also takes Island Village off the list at this point, that we will continue to work with Mattamy. And unless we feel like we
In
need
your
a-
role as president, I think you should be in communication. And we've also got David and I think it was Cindy who are on CJC. I mean, that's a good place also to have CJC agenda include Island Village updates, but really it should be you, and they're going to start selling in the spring, last I heard, and moving forward. So it needs to go board to board as we move forward.
I mean, the
I
Island
like it.
Village has been very supportive. I mean, they were down at Pups and Pints. They were very involved in that. So they are definitely, conversations with the people on site where they are definitely moving forward and gonna have a lot of new homeowners back there. Okay, so we,
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
I'm not sure that we had stated that for today, but I agree. Yeah, I mean,
What I will be happy to do, once everybody gets their official email licenses, is, I'm laying by a pool in the next 2
In
weeks. I will
Mexico.
actually flood some of the new board members and other people with some of the stuff from other things, just so they can have light reading in their spare time.
I think we have Tom slated to do a legal overview as part of the
Mhm.
meeting. along
But
with
there-
RFP.
there's things that would just brief people, so I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, so RFP, we have tabled until after our RFP, till everyone is up to speed on that. Condo council. Yeah, Jeffrey.
Well, I created it a couple of years ago. I'd like to participate.
I have had members of the public tell me that they really miss the condo council, so I
Okay.
would be an advocate for keeping that.
I would actually, and I appreciate that time Jackson puts it on, it was something I really pushed for, it was representation of the only people that was never represented. So, Celia, I would actually
Yeah.
encourage you and be second.
You're a con- yeah, you're-
Because I own a condo, I can be on, no, I wanted to, but I was.
Yeah.
I would actually encourage it,
Okay.
because I think
Yeah.
you, sitting on this board, I own a condo still now, but I.
You're both.
I live in a house, so if anybody wants a condo, you can go ahead and sit
Come
on
on.
that board. But until then, I think you have to be. Very well suited.
Okay, thank you.
I would make Jackson as the point and Celia as the second. Is that good?
I-
Or if you want to flip them, I don't care. But I think they're both would
I think, yeah,
ideal.
I think
Okay,
that's,
so can I ask a question?
Mhm. Yeah.
So they have the condo council,
Mhm.
that involves me going to the condo meetings, or,
No,
I think
it
that
it doesn't
makes
actually. The condo council, and it might be useful just to explain it.
Yeah.
We brought together the leadership of all of the condos that were interested quarterly to act as a sounding board for CROA to inform the condo leadership of various things that impacted them, like anatomy of a leak or legal issues. And then they approached us about problems like with Comcast and the cabling and so on. So it was more like a, no, it was kind of like
Did you,
a place where we could communicate and
Did-
start to bring that
did
residential
you have stated
involvement.
meetings?
But we didn't go to condo board
But
meetings.
did you have stated meetings between them, or were they just as? they
We
needed?
came together here.
Okay,
So it's almost like what shouldn't happen with partisan. That's what happens with.
but it would, just- but
Susanna's
with
got
this,
her
it would
hand up,
just be
so.
with the liaisons, not with the whole board.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Susanna, you had your
I
hand.
actually have a question for you. So I inherited that from Susan, who coordinated those, and trying to look at the history of that, it looks like a lot of classes, like you said, anatomy of the leak, construction defect. I'm sure that everyone feels that those are useful, but it didn't seem to me that that was really addressing a lot of the condo issues or
Right.
interactive. And so I'm hoping that, whoever is the liaison, that they can look at a format and new goals with agendas on how to address those instead of just putting. I found
Yeah,
some
I
problems,
agree.
but I thought, what is this? I'm not sure what that's doing for.
Yeah, some of it was education, but I think there's a greater need now to hear from the condos about their issues.
Yeah, and this ties into, I think, correct me, I think 30% of the community are condo owners. However, if we go ahead and we look at the representation that each gets from the CROA board, they all pay that same 900 plus per year. But are they all receiving that same inspection level? Because how much are they offsetting the budget for the single family homes? I don't know if they're actually getting represented the way they should.
Well, that was the initial
2020
problem with Comcast.
2020 with everybody has really shifted quite a lot. We've had changes, we've had. So I think it's not so much just the classes, but it's listening and hearing and really analyzing. What are they giving to the community and what are they receiving from it?
What they need.
And what
Well,
do they need?
Okay.
I really, I mean, I don't care which one of you to point both of you on. It's great. I think you nailed it with the business issues and what Susanna's talking about here. I think we need this.
Okay, very good. So I've got Jackson and Celia. Okay, I love that. I
Which
think-
one of you to point? Just decide between two of you. I don't care.
Yeah, you guys can decide when you set it up and, okay. Okay, CCDD. Point person for CCDD, and Greg Bilak is the CCDD chairman, I think is his title. So we need a so the next four are CCDD, Celebration Foundation, Osceola County, which will be dealing with our county commissioner, as well as the school district, which is dealing with the school board member that represents our area. So those are kind of the next four. They kind of go outside of CCDD is celebration, but they also encompass outside leadership. Do we have any volunteers for CCDD?
Well,
or-
Celebration Foundation, Osceola County, and the school district are perfunctory type things that we do nothing with. So I don't know why the heck we have them on here. CDD has turned into real work. We did the trees things. Right now, there's the thing about the holidays. So whoever is the CDD person is going to be working closely with Greg and Jack and other people. We're actually turning that into something. I would scrap the other three.
Do we think the school district, though, because of the new school going into Island Village, is going to need a person to be a point person on that?
And they don't give a damn what we think.
To be honest, we are
Oh.
HOA. I don't think we have any, right? We
Mhm.
inserted ourselves many times because it's offered in areas that we should not.
Yeah.
We have inserted ourselves with not much result.
And if we ever,
Based on the law.
so the school district, I think, is a waste of our time. The county is a waste of our time. If we need to deal with Peggy, a lot of us have got a lot of experience. We know how to do that. And when you get down to the Celebration Foundation, they'll come meet with any of us. We all know.
Yeah, well, we can,
players.
and we have that relationship.
We
with
have those
Kathy.
relationships. So I think it should only be CDD.
Okay, we have a comment from Neil.
I was just going to emphasize that what I've noticed, because I have a standing meeting with Commissioner Chowdhury every other month. But I find that the communication and kind of extending the concerns of celebration to the school district and to the county is actually more receptive from CCDD versus us. Now, I will say, I give huge credit to Greg. He organizes, he gets these things going, and we're always invited. to participate, but it looks like CCDD is who those organizations tend to kind of
You're
listen.
supporting what
Yeah, I'm supporting what
and-
Brian is saying, but I wanted to support it with just a little bit of background. Greg has been fantastic, and he does keep an open invitation for CROA when he organizes those things.
Okay.
Can I ask you, I've seen some of the agenda of the items between CROA and CCDD, and it's a very long agenda. But I also know that there's one long-term issue regarding potential incorporation that is very different than the current events and activities. I'm wondering if we can carve out something for the incorporation discussion as a separate responsibility to deal with CCDD. I know I want to say Jack McLaughlin has been working on
Well,
that.
Jack's been working on it and others. The CCD, and this is one of those where I'm arguing for one person, the point person. They are being very receptive. I've went to several meetings in a row and had quite a bit of speaking role. So if we take it serious and have one person get involved, it will work.
And do you think that incorporation can be rolled into all of that? Or
Yes,
should that be cut out?
Absolutely.
You think it should
Absolutely.
be
They're
rolled
not
in?
trying to exclude us at all. That vote will be in November of 2022. They have heard me loud and clear, and they agree that it requires educating the entire community. So I don't see there any adversarial at all.
So you're volunteering to be the CCD liaison?
I was really thinking it would be a great job for somebody else, but
Anyone?
Well, I mean, I'd be willing to do it, but I think Brian's a better person to do it, honestly.
I, Brian, I like the relationship that you already have built, but I also don't want to give you a responsibility that is gonna attack.
if you want it to be me and Jackson, we'll figure out who the point is. But then
Are
you
you
kind
gentlemen
of
good?
got me on the list. Now you've got me on finance, you've got me a couple other places.
Yeah, all right, Jackson, you're good with that?
I am.
Okay. All right, now on the ongoing roles, so we've taken off the foundation, the school system, and the county.
All right, can I go down this list of the ongoing? Budget finance is a finance committee management responsibility. Neil's already done it once. It doesn't belong on here at all.
It's a duplicate, right, of what we
It
already.
is already, so it
Yeah.
should not be here. Communication. We've said for the entire time I've been on the board that we were going to workshop communication. At some point in time, we got to quit talking about it and do it. It shouldn't be it should actually be a workshop topic with a new board where we talk about what in the heck does it be?
Susanna, can you add that to the workshop topic list and who's
And
keeping
let's
that
make
list?
it pretty darned high priority.
Yeah.
Communication.
So whoever's keeping the list of the workshop.
Emergency hurricane is management's problem and they coordinate with the president. That's the way
Right,
it's
when
always
we
been.
have
It
that
doesn't
issue.
belong here. Insurance
There's a-
is a finance committee management issue, and that's the way it worked with Neil this year. And external funding is a finance committee thing. It's in a definition of the charter with the board. So the only thing we have on here that's needed is communication.
And
we
we've
need
moved
a
that to
real
the-
workshop
to
to
the
talk about what
workshop.
that means.
Any other comments or concerns about taking those off the list?
I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
I mean, what I'll add is if there's concerns about removing, if people have fear that like, oh, you're taking something away, you have the ability to put in a task force or an ad hoc mechanism at any time if something does come up that's a crisis. So
Well, every one of these is
Yeah.
already defined
It's
in the
already-
finance charter
Right.
and in the charter and bylaws of the thing, and was part of the group that Gary helped organize with the other
Yep.
people last year. So we've nailed these.
This is
Yeah.
how it's consolidated.
I think we made great progress on this list and not overloaded anyone. I think we've made some move forward updates, where we're not duplicating efforts or just assigning someone and where the role really isn't necessary or needed. Any other comments on roles? Cindy, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so back to Celebration Foundation, you're still involved with them?
I am,
And I'm on the.
with
advisory board
with their
for
finance,
Driving,
with their grant writing piece.
yeah,
Okay.
driving, so,
We have the relationship.
yeah, so I think we,
Yeah.
in years past,
Right.
the reasons got on the list was because we wanted to develop that relationship, I think.
I think there's
I'm
others in the
active
room
with
that are
Mike
involved.
Jackson and stuff like that with it too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got stuff all over the place.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I think
Thi-
that,
This list had grown over the last couple of years, and when we put this together, we kept everything on so we could, as a group,
so we
exclude
could have this.
So let me-
and make it more manageable.
Since we've struck the school system, what can we do? And I'm what can we do about the tennis courts and getting them to have to actually address how horrible they look and fix them up in some sense? If we,
Can we have that
'cause I
conversation
think
with our
we-
school board representative?
I personally have that kind of billeted in that kind of amenity report that we're working on. I've not given up on that. I've had a couple interactions with the new principal, but I don't think I don't think it'll be fast, but I don't think we get rid of that as a
Well, and
priority.
I would like to, meet with them as well.
Absolutely.
You and I can coordinate that and kind of move that process forward, or at least,
Susanna, can
into
it
their
make
work.
your list, the school tennis court, so that
Yeah.
at least when we're talking about things. that we
yeah,
get-
because it is definitely not.
It's beyond an eyesore.
So as part of that, what I have never seen, what I would love to see is what is the agreement with the schools? What comes out of our budget that takes care of that facility? Because that becomes a budget decision. That could be zero line, but I don't think it is right now.
Well, aren't they saying?
So we need to look at
Yeah,
that.
I would have to pull that and look.
I
at
haven't seen it.
Yeah.
They have to be subject to covenants.
No.
Why,
No.
I knew when you were doing
No.
inspections, but I'm at a loss as to why there's a
That-
facility in town that's not
Not.
asked to have the same standards.
Why don't?
You're right,
let-
you're right.
You have your hand up, but why don't, Neil and I, let's take a look at that and see, because we need to define what we're paying,
What are we paying?
what are we getting for what we're paying?
Exactly.
And the condition that they're in and building that relationship with the school district. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Kevin, go right ahead.
Part of that conversation, see if there's some CCS opportunity, not try to see us go ahead and present dollars, to go ahead and do some schools, tennis courts, so on. That money is there to go ahead and celebration, school district in celebration, is or outside of celebration as well. If you-
Okay. All right, I'm going to, yes, go ahead. No, you're fine.
Procedure. The tennis courts was brought up at quite a few board meetings. in the
Yeah,
past.
and we.
And it was mentioned that, yes, the school district we will pay to fix it up, but we don't know how long the school district will allow us
And I
to.
was central in
Right.
all the
Right, and
emails,
that
and
anybody
everybody
can
agreed that this
use it.
person was going to do it.
Right.
So
and
it's been discussed and it needs to be moved off dead center and we need to tell the school district, fix it, it's your problem.
Okay.
Can I please recommend?
I was
that
gonna-
Bring me more.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
10:30?
I think we have a 10:30 commitment with Tom Slayton. I'm gonna call this and say we're taking a bio break
Right.
until 10:30.
So the way 10:30 will work is I'm going to give you a handout. I'm going to walk you through the handout first and Tom's going to talk and we're going to spend an hour and we're going to
Right.
really educate you on our.
And we are gonna go off Zoom at this point
That's
and
correct.
take a break.
Well, no,
But it-
we'll go off Zoom now, but Tom will Zoom at.
Yes,
10:30.
we're gonna go off.
There's
the-
two
the
agendas with Tom.
Yeah.
The main one is RFP.
Yeah.
And then as we get to it, it's also legal
Yeah,
update,
over a high level.
high
legal
level,
update
and
to
if
get
whatever
you
we
up.
don't do has to go to another executive session.
So we are gonna go off this initial Zoom meeting. We're gonna take a break.
And management's gonna be excluded from the,
Yes, yeah, they are out of the room for a while and we will be back here at 10:30.
congratulations.